Hello, I'm Kate Flower and you're tuning into The Curious Cooks. I'm here with my very curious friend, Tracey Cottrell, digging into all things counting the cost and why it matters what we're putting on our plate. And today we managed to get hold of the wonderful Matthew Evans. Absolutely. Loved the conversation, dived into his long food journey through childhood, chefing, farming, and then food advocacy. And you worked with him recently on his Grounded
Festival, yes, certainly was. Let me just finish your sentence for you.
Joe.
Festival. Yes, I did. It was an absolutely amazing experience, held here in WA in Bridgetown in September. So you'll hear about all about behind the scenes on Grounded Festival.
I still feel like I absolutely missed out not going to that one. So I'm looking forward to listening into all of that again. For those of you who know Matthew Evans, you'll know he has a pretty amazing head of hair. And because I ask the hard-hitting questions, I asked him, where do you get your hair done? Because it's looking so good. And he goes to the Roaring 40s hairdressing salon. And so I can't wait to get over to Tasmania and try it out soon. Basically, he rolls out into the paddock and just stands there and in the wind does its good work.
Yeah, so very, very good. He does love his food and cooking.
Yes, he does.
And it is an absolutely delightful and quite a fun conversation, isn't it?
He loves food. We love food. What could go wrong?
And what could possibly go wrong? Let's get into it. Enjoy. So welcome to Matthew Evans, who is a chef turned farmer, writer, broadcast and food advocate. Matthew is on Fat Pig Farm in the Huon Valley in Tasmania, and where he lives with his partner Sadie and son Headley.
And some fat pigs?
No more fat pigs.
No more fat pigs.
Matthew of the Pigs gone.
No fat pigs at the moment. With the local abattoir is closed, so there's no pigs on the farm at the moment. So the last ones went off about 3 weeks ago, and they're looking great in the freezer, but they're fat in the freezer, but not on the paddocks at the moment.
Oh, you're going to run out of full pork buns.
Yeah.
Do we need to hear more about Matthew?
Yeah, I was going to say that Matthew is the star of the Gourmet Farmer series on SBS, which ran for 6 seasons. We were all fascinated.
Was addictive. We were just farmer voyeurs.
Absolutely. And Matthew and I actually last saw each other at the Grounded Festival in Bridgetown last month in September, which was absolutely fantastic. Matthew, you must be so thrilled it's over.
Thrilled to say, no, I have to say, you put a lot of, like, it's like 6 months, 8 months work into something like that. And then we had it was about 270 people, I guess, on site at the most. And then it's actually, this moment where all the energy of the people and all of the work you've done and then the goodwill of everyone involved just creates this beautiful moment where you get to sit back and watch the fire pits burning and the conversations starting and the connections being made. And then it's this beautiful thing. So yeah, I feel now on the come down a little bit from the excitement, but knowing that there's all these, I've already been getting emails from people saying, "Oh, I'm buying off so and so now, and I've changed where I shop, or I'm using this farmer for that." So yeah, it's been this beautiful, and that's what it's about. It's about
that'll feed the soul.
Yeah, it does.
It was a fantastic 2 days.
Because the last time I saw Matthew was in the lead up to Grounded, and there'd been quite a few balls in the air and things going slightly awry, and you were trying to be cool about it and you were keeping focused. So I'm so glad to hear that in the end, despite difficulties at times, everything went well, and it sounds like there were so many beautiful conversations had that I can't wait to hear about.
Completely. And unfortunately, all of us didn't get to hear all the conversations, but I know that there's been recordings made. So I think I love that, because those ripples will still go on. And we'll talk about Grounded a little bit later on, but those ripples will go on far and wide when the conversations start to come out, so that everyone can hear them if you didn't get there.
Yeah, so we're going to put them out as, we'll probably put it on our YouTube channel, but we just got the audio. So we're thinking about, we'll just pop it up as a podcast, just top and tail it, as a very simple thing. So people who,
isn't it?
Yeah, because the thing is, we had 2 tents going at once. So if you're in one tent, like I know you, Tracey, hosted in one sense. There's a whole, half a day or 3/4 of a day where you couldn't see anything because you were working.
Yeah,
In
Tracy
the
had
other two,
FOMO constantly.
I didn't.
yeah,
Our speakers were the best.
yeah. Well, yeah, I obviously gave her the better tent, obviously. Um, but there is this moment where you think, oh, hang on, I wonder what was happening in the other place. So you can go back and listen to them. So all the ticket holders, but it's for free for everybody. We'll upload it for free for anyone who's interested in those topics.
And there'll be lots of our listeners who'd be really interested in diving into some of those conversations about how people are producing food, the practices that are starting to come to the fore, and all of the learnings. And Matthew is a food advocate and really an advocate for producing food well and understanding how that happens and sharing that information. So that's why we've got you on the podcast today. But shall I dive back into the depths of, your initial story when you moved from Sydney to Tasmania, just for those 2 or 3 people who don't know who you are at this point in time?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Canberra and I trained as a chef, was my first job out of school. So I've been, even before I left school, my first job was at 14 was delivering milk, and my second job was working in a bakery. And so I've always been around food, and then for the last 18 years or so, I guess what I was doing in Sydney, I cooked in restaurants, and then I got interested in sharing the joy of food more broadly. So I wrote about food and became a restaurant critic and a food writer. And then
Can I just ask
I got
about
interested in
that
where
little
food
leap
comes from.
from chefing to writing?
Yeah.
Like, what was that? What happened in that little moment where you went, I'm cooking and enjoying giving people food, and then suddenly you went, actually, I want to put it down?
Yeah, so I guess what it is it's all built on two premises. One is gluttony. So I'm very self-interested and I want to eat. When I was young, I wanted to eat more and I wanted to eat better. And so that's, if you want to eat more and you want to eat better, you hang around the kitchen. And that was with my mum. So I learned to cook with my mum. And then, I wanted to get a job. And it was like, well, where can I hang around with food? Oh, I can become an apprentice chef. So I became an apprentice chef. And then, so I've always wanted to, and I don't need to eat more now. I like to eat better. And I
Well,
think it's good to eat better. But what better has meant has changed over the years. So I guess what happened was the other thing that happened in tandem is that cooking's this, it is was a selfish act for me, but it's also a very giving act. So I love cooking for people. And so that idea that you can make people happy by just putting a meal on the table, they come in from work or tired or school or wherever, and you put something in front of them and you make them happy. And I see you've got a plate of biscuits there, and that just makes me happy seeing it, even though I'm not going to be able to try one today.
I'm so sorry
But
you can't reach them.
yeah, but it's what do they call it? It's a love language. Cooking can be a love language, and
Absolutely.
so being able to make people happy with cooking is great. But then I realized that you can cook, for your family. You make, few people happy. If you cook in a dining room, you can make 60 people happy. Then I realized that I grew up around food that wasn't always great, and then I discovered really good food, and I was like, you know what, you can find restaurants that serve really good food, and so or I can give you a recipe that makes cooking easier and better for your family, so you can share that more widely by writing about it. And so that's what I did, and then that sort of led into becoming a full-time food writer. So and hanging around in restaurants, because this idea that restaurants serve good food is kind of a fallacy, that some do and some don't. And so it'd
And
be
you
good to
started
know
out
when you
thinking that they do, and then the more you sat in those dining rooms and tried different foods across the restaurants, is that when you decided, hang on a minute, it's not all good food?
No, I trained where there was bad food, so I know what bad food is, and I know so I had a chef who was great, but he had some shortcuts, and so I can still see all these years later. I know when people have used a packet sauce mix as opposed to made it from scratch, because I can taste all those things because I trained around them. And so I worked places where sometimes, like, I was never in that. I never worked in a place where they would sit on the toilet peeling the prawns,
Good.
but you know, but I've been to those places as a restaurant critic and seen
And
those
you just,
people.
we'll put all those
And
places in the show notes, just saying, so you can avoid.
um, but those places existed, and they still to some extent exist. And so there are just because you pay for food going out doesn't mean it's necessarily better than home cooking. And so what I wanted to do was, when I realized there was this big difference, is to celebrate that and to say to people, actually, it's your hard-earned money. You've only got a limited amount of time and money that you could spend in a restaurant. Wouldn't it be good if you knew what was a better restaurant, more likely to give you pleasure than another place? So that sort of drove my desire to be a restaurant critic.
And also the right
And
restaurant for you. Like there's one restaurant for
yeah,
maybe a splash out date night, and then there's another restaurant where you know that you can go and relax with the kids and enjoy a beautiful meal.
yeah, and people go out for lots of reasons. Some people go out because they just don't want to wash up, right? They just, or just don't want to cook. But a lot of people would actually like to think that they can enjoy a meal when they go out, and that the waiter might make them feel better about themselves, and the space might make you feel comfortable as opposed to uncomfortable. So, and restaurants can do all of that. They can do all the cooking and washing up for you, but they can also make you feel loved and make you feel special and give you a moment in your day which is maybe better than some of the other moments you've had in your day. And that's the beautiful thing about hospitality. And so I wanted to share that joy and pleasure of finding those places. What's interesting is my aim was to eat better, but when you become a restaurant critic, your actual work is eating in the dodgy places and either never writing about them or getting sued for writing about them. So, your work is
on the
you actually have to take yourself to places you don't think you'll like, because you're trying to help the public make informed decisions, and you want to take a bullet for them. And I can tell you, I took a few bullets for the public over
What
my
was your health
10 years as a
like at the end of your tenure as a food critic? I'm interested. Was it the same as your health is today?
No, nowhere near. No, so, and I think it takes a real toll on your body. So you're eating, so generally there's things in restaurants. So the less talented the chef is, the more fat, salt, and sugar they put in their food, right? It's just an easy fix. These days, you might add a little bit of MSG as well, because a lot of people are adding other stuff. Because if you're not very good at cooking, that's an easier way to make it taste nice. But as a critic, what you're doing is you're eating special occasion food,
All it.
because restaurants really should be for special occasions or occasions, not every day. I was eating out 10 times a week on
Holy.
average for 5 years when I was working for the City Morning Herald. So that's 540 meals, or between 500 and 540 meals out a year. And that actually, it's not like watching a movie and being a movie critic, or being a literary critic. This actually becomes part of you. It becomes part of your DNA when you
Yes, I can
you
imagine.
take this food into you. And so you end up sort of challenging most cells in your body through the job that you do. So I found it hard to keep the weight off. I would do a lot of walking around. I was trained, as I had British parents who grew up during post-war World War II rationing. So they're always like, finish everything on your plate. Well, if you want to be a restaurant critic, don't finish everything on your plate. Like, unless it's really good. If you're eating out 10 times a week and you're not hungry, and you have to have dessert because that's part of your job, is to have dessert, then not eating everything on your plate is
It's a
quite
great idea.
important.
Yeah.
I hate the waste,
And
but
a
like, if
skill
that's your
to-
job,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, a
yeah.
skill that you don't really want to have. But and when you go out to, or when you were going out to restaurants, I love that. I think it was Marco Pierre White who said that there are three things in hospitality in this order that restaurateurs have to get right. One is the ambience, two is the service, and three is the food. So if you haven't got ambience and you haven't got the service, even if you've got really great food, but you've got strip lighting and lino floor type of thing, I don't know, not done in a nice way, then
Yeah.
people aren't going to go back. It's just a very interesting thing. So did you write about the ambience and the service as well as the food itself?
Yeah, so I guess my starting point was the food, but people might go out for the food, but they'll come back for the service.
Definitely.
Like, doesn't matter how good the food is, if you feel, if you're belittled, or you feel someone hasn't treated you well, you're not going to go back. And ambience is an interesting one. There's a guy named Anthony Morgan, a comedian. I remember him years ago talking about how restaurants are focusing on ambience. And he said that ambience is kind of like atmosphere, but no one feels comfortable in it. And and but yeah, the atmosphere or the feel of the place, like, does it have a nice view? Is it too deafening? And a lot of people would say to me, I get these letters from people saying, "Oh, that restaurant is too loud or it's too dark." Essentially, restaurants define their audience by the ambience or the atmosphere.
Would you go back?
And
Does it suit you?
and so Yeah, so if it's too loud and too dark and it's full, that just means you're too old. Because
Let's agree
because
we're not
they
going
actually
into that one.
We get on that.
they're actually trying to keep their audience. They generate the audience by how they create that atmosphere. And so what is comfortable for a younger person than me, who is different to what's comfortable for people my age. So it's and whatever they want is how they can define their audience. But yes, you try to include that so that people who are reading will go, oh yeah, really dark and really loud, I want to be there.
Yeah,
Or
loved it.
they might go really dark and really loud, I don't want to take my ear trumpet, I'm not going. Yeah.
So how did you get from restaurant or food writer to farming?
And what did you do with the ear trumpet in the move?
um so being a restaurant critic and eating in these fancy restaurants, I'd hear about how Australia has some of the best produce in the world and how we have some of the best chefs in the world, and the chefs are getting the best produce. So in theory, when you're eating in a restaurant, you're eating the best produce in the world. And that was kind of like
For context, can we say when this was? What sort of year?
this was early 2000s,
Okay.
roughly. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
for context.
And so in some ways we do have really amazing produce, and in lots of ways we do have amazing chefs. But just because you're in a really expensive restaurant doesn't mean you're getting the best produce, because a restaurant needs to have
Consistency.
certainty of delivery. They need to have a certain standard. It needs to be certain consistency. And so, I was eating in these amazing restaurants, and then I remember eating in one where I had this salad, and the salad came and it was, fine. But then I went to this a home gardener's place about the same time, a week or two later, and I'm eating lettuce from their garden. And this is the lettuce, not like the restaurant where it's got some, Chardonnay vinegar and, extra virgin olive oil, from the south side of the hill, crushed on a Tuesday when, the stars were in alignment or whatever. It was just a piece of lettuce, tasted better than the stuff in the fancy restaurant. And this lettuce tasted better because the home gardener could put more effort into the growing of that lettuce than any commercial gardener that's supplying to a restaurant. So what that made me realize is that the best produce in Australia is probably not in the best restaurants. It's probably being grown by someone at home, and it's being picked immediately before they eat it. So they walk out into their yard and they bandicoot a few potatoes and boil them up, or they go and take a couple of spears of asparagus and eat them while they're in the garden or on the way back into the house. And so the best produce is probably grown very close to where it's consumed and possibly never makes it to a commercial kitchen. So I thought, oh, wow. So I'm always interested in like good produce and, eating well. Obviously some people can grow this stuff, and I'd never grown much. And so I thought,
Except larger.
I should have yeah, I'd grown a lot larger. Yeah, that's right. I should have a crack at growing stuff. So I moved from a sort of terrace house in Sydney with an overshadowed backyard where I could only grow moss and snails, to Tasmania, where I had space to have chooks and a garden, and some heritage apples, and 2 pigs, and
And you got
10
excited.
chooks, and 3 sheep, which became 9 sheep, and a dairy cow. And, I got a bit overexcited. Yeah.
And eventually you even added a wife to that herd, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. She arrived after the chooks and the pigs, but yes. Yeah. So the idea was to have three chooks and a veggie garden. But when I got to Tassie, I realized that I could actually fulfill this dream of mine to sort of live more rurally and have a small holding where I just grow food for myself. So I could have, the 2 pigs and the milking cow, as well as a decent sized garden, as well as 10 chooks, and a wife eventually. Yeah.
Bonus.
Excellent.
Bonus.
The better half, as they say.
Yes. But she's about a 3/4 in our sense.
So
They always
Gourmet
are.
Farmer, the Gourmet Farmer series was born.
Yeah, so Gourmet Farmer was the show. So I was moving to a farm, and I was talking to a production company, television production company, about what I was doing, and I was writing a book on where food came from, because I was that idea of that where it's grown and how it's grown and how it's caught, as in terms of fish or whatever, and how it's treated once after it leaves the ocean or for the farm. It really matters. And so I was writing a book on that, and the production company were interested sort of in that topic. And I said, we went to SBS, and they said, well, what are you doing? I said, I want to showcase farmers and how they grow food, and how we look after landscapes and how we care about animals has an impact on flavor, and that's really important. And there's amazing people doing this cool stuff. And they said, that sounds really, really boring. And so,
Gosh, how time.
Prove them wrong, Matthew Evans.
yeah. So, and I was like, that was a bit of a surprise because I'd just written 65,000 words for this book on it, on it. And so,
Had a slight panic attack and then got yourself together again and went, I can do this.
yeah. Yep. Oh, is it that boring? It's like, oh, well, that's already gone to publisher. But they said, what else are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to buy my own little farm, and I'm going to have chooks. I'm going to milk a cow. And they said, do you know how to do any of that? And I said, nah, I don't know how to kill my own chickens for the dinner pot and stuff. And they said, oh, now that sounds interesting. And so that was how the show was born. So it was me moving to a farm and having a go at growing things, and building a garden, fattening my first pigs, making my own prosciutto, making cheese for the first time, like really genuinely just having a go at doing stuff.
Tracey, I wanted to introduce our listeners to our proud Series 1 podcast sponsor, Urban Forager. They make the most delicious organic stock concentrate in WA, and they're great friends of ours.
Oh, absolutely. And it is just full of flavour and real ingredients with no nasties in.
Love that.
Thing that I love about it as well is once it's opened, it keeps in the fridge for up to 12 months.
Not in my house, because we've always used it well and truly before then.
Yeah, it's so useful, and it's such great value.
Yeah.
So making 1 litre of stock is just over $2, and there's 10 litres in that little jar.
Fantastic to have in there. And because it's a concentrate, I use it in a variety of ways. It's super versatile, not just soup, but also I might throw it into meatballs, dips, dressings, sauces. I love it. Delicious.
Absolutely. So everyone jump online to urbanforager.com.au where you can get 20% off.
You just need to use code CURIOUS20 for 20% off when you shop with Urban Forager. Thanks, guys.
Enjoy.
It was
Super
awesome
cool,
to
actually.
watch because, 1 minute you were being really self-depreciating and like tripping over in your gumboots and just, kind of going, I don't know if I could do this and is it going to be okay? And then the joy of you achieving things was also like in equal measure. Those two things were great to watch. It's like, kind of bumbling farmer learning his way. And then he's done it and it's great. And he's tasting it and he's sharing it. That was really fun to watch.
I was just like so impressed that you could make prosciutto. Didn't you build a little shed, or was that on Fat Pig Farm?
That little shed was on the farm. Yeah. And I think what's interesting, and I think you picked up on it there, Kate, was they wanted to do this show. My idea was to showcase Tasmania and to showcase, this incredible state we live in, but also the cool people doing interesting stuff. But they're like, I need to frame it as Matthew's story. So they wanted me looking like, like a Gumby. But and that's fine because I was, but what's super interesting for me in hindsight is to go, well, yeah, total novice, total Gumby, right? I actually 90% of what we tried to do just nailed it. Like, it's super great. It's actually all this stuff that seems really hard. Yes, there was some awful things that happened and there was some big mistakes and things you'd never want to make again. And part of that was driven by the speed of making television. Like we did a lot of things faster than we should have.
But if you're starting a new
can't blame
business, that
them.
would happen as well. So same.
Yeah.
You're just unfortunately
So-
doing it on camera.
Yeah, you do it on camera, but that cliche, the only people who don't make mistakes don't make anything. And so I've met lots of people over the years and they go, how did you make the leap? How did you choose to do this? And it's like, well, don't think too much. You can find a reason to not do everything. You can find a reason to never leave home, right? But if you actually want to do something, do a little bit of research. Don't be completely, stupid about it. But don't immerse yourself so much that you find a reason not to do it and all the things that could go wrong, because then you'll never do anything. So and that's what I think has driven me is like, oh, I've got this idea. How do you make cheese? Well, I've been lucky enough to know some cheese makers, but even then my cheeses don't always work. But well, so what? Like when they work, oh my God, you cannot buy a
Almost more
feta or
exciting.
halloumi. Yeah, it's right.
If it
And
were
it
the
gives
first
the other
time, it'd
thing,
be a
it
bit
gives you
boring, wouldn't it, really? Yeah.
yeah,
Or no?
and it gives you appreciation for the people who do this for us, the people who grow our food, who make our cheese, who smoke our bacon. Once you've done it, and I was making butter last night going, oh, it's so delicious. And there are days when I wish I could pay someone to do this. And it's like, oh, you can. Yes, it costs more, really, top
Yep.
than butter. But having made it myself, I can tell you it's worth that money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What's your hourly rate?
Totally. I made mascarpone the other day because we had Sue Daubney in, and she then got really excited about it, and she had an Italian dinner to go to where she was providing the tiramisu. And in Northcliffe, they didn't have any mascarpone in any shops in Northcliffe, so she knew how to make it because she came on the podcast with us. And
Sharing the
she-
food
she
stories.
sent me a text going, "Here we are, emergency mascarpone out of our own cream from our own cows on our own farm." Isn't that beautiful?
Super great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Heartwarming.
Yeah.
I think
I've got some mascarpone in the fridge ready to I'm going to make a blueberry and mascarpone cake because I need the blueberries out of the freezer before the new crop arrives. And it's like, oh, super cool.
any
Yeah,
excuse,
it's a recipe.
any
Brilliant.
excuse for baking.
Brilliant. Love
I
it.
think it's really lovely to see that you're on your farm and, this could be true of anyone any day. There's always someone you can ask. And asking is a really intelligent thing to do. Sometimes, am I?
You're banging.
Oh, I'm banging. Sorry. Sometimes you can read, but some people like to be shown how to do something. And once they've been shown once, that's it. And I think this leads really beautifully into the fact that you are a communicator and a connector, and all of the knowledge that you've built up over the last, what is it now, 25 years? How many years is it in Tasmania?
25 now, Matthew.
No, I've lived in Tassie for about 18 years.
18 years.
But yeah.
And, over your whole career and then now growing and your experience with getting your hands dirty in the soil, you've been actively sharing as much information you can with people on how to do these things well so that we have positive nutritional benefits for people broadly when they're eating. And back to grounded. I feel like you two have got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's almost like a little bit before grounded. I just want to touch on this conversation that I thought may be quite interesting for us to have with you. And it's about the myths about food and growing food in Australia that distort public understanding. Because I said to Kate earlier on, just before we came on, I said, I've read and heard a couple of times now that there are only, I think it's 60 seasons left of growing in Australia. And I'm putting inverted commas around that. 60 seasons of growing left in Australia because our land is so ancient and we have had a lot of degradation of the land because of climate and farming and just the change that the land has seen. But these myths, as I said, distort public understanding.
So is it a myth?
Well, is it? Yeah,
Matthew?
first, is it a myth? Because yeah. Please tell.
Yeah,
Example.
that one's born out of a there's a number similar to that's been bandied around quite a lot over the last 10 years or so. I think it's originally born out of someone from the UN who had said there's 60 harvests left globally or whatever. And it's not based on any particular research or any particular science.
Okay.
There are places where there are less than 60 harvests left, and there are places where there's 1,000 harvests or more. So it's not in some ways it's not a helpful number, but the truth is we do lose topsoil. We lose and globally it's hard to pin the numbers down for Australia, but globally we lose about a soccer pitch worth of usable land every 5 seconds. So that land is lost to growing food because it becomes desertified, or it becomes too eroded, or it becomes too
Saline.
wet. Saline, salt, for whatever reason. But that's a soccer pitch every 5 seconds, which sounds like a lot. The Earth's big, so we have a lot of soccer pitches worth of land, but it's crazy. We've abandoned something like 40% of the land we once farmed because we've buggered it up. So
could we go back to that and fix it? Is that a thing that could happen, Matthew?
Well, yeah, some of it can be fixed. So the fertile crescent, the breadbasket of biblical times is no longer fertile. But there are people working on that and saying, well, okay, can we make it fertile again? Climate change is making that hard because we're getting much higher temperatures and more difficult conditions, and it's hard to build topsoil in some places. But actually, what's really cool is that humans can build topsoil faster than nature made it. So before humans sort of dominated the planet, we tend to get more topsoil being built than we lost. There's always being built and lost, a little bit washed away or blown away for whatever reason. But we've accelerated that crazy rates, humanity has. But now we also have the capacity and the tools to build topsoil very fast. Not in every place. It relies obviously on rainfall, because topsoil, you need plants to grow topsoil, and it's often helpful to have animals in the mix to help grow topsoil. So it's not possible everywhere. So places that are too salty can be brought back, but it takes a lot of effort. Places that are too dry, it's very, very difficult to bring back because you can't magic rainfall. But we do know if you have enough tree cover, you can actually create, trees create weather, create rainfall. So we can reverse it, but some of this stuff done on a landscape scale would be quite hard to do. But done on an individual scale, you can definitely improve plots of land. Any home gardener knows that. Anyone who's moved into a house that hasn't got a garden and then says, I want to build a garden, or if you move into a new house and it looks like, a bomb hit, you can actually have a really bountiful garden within a couple of years. So it's obvious that humans can build topsoil. But what does that take? How much do we have to bring in? How much effort does it take? And how do we scale that up over, planet Earth?
Energy.
It's quite big.
And I
How
think,
much energy? Yeah.
yeah, I think that's what I love about your books as well. And I love reading something that has come from an Australian author as well, because we hear so much from overseas, and I think the myths are, they need it all needs to, or let's put it this way, if you hear something that sounds a little bit like a myth, it could be, trust your gut, but everything like this needs to be nuanced and based on place, rather than saying, the
Broadly.
whole of Australia or the whole of the world, because in some places, as you said, that, topsoil's great, and in others it's rubbish. So it's really important for me, thinking about how the environment is that some places are going to thrive, like you were talking about the was it you talking about? I can't remember.
I talk about a lot of things.
Yeah, about the
Let's not.
coral.
Oh, yeah. So I was talking to a marine scientist in the sauna, and we have some good conversations in the sauna because there's no phones in the sauna. This is my latest place to go and relax. And you have some great chats. And so we were talking about the fact that obviously coral is, degrading and dying through overarching heat. But I said to her, so does that mean coral is starting to grow elsewhere where it's warmed up a little bit? And she said, yes, absolutely. But it's not a conversation we tend to have. As humans, we like to concentrate on the negatives. And of course, the earth is getting warmer and long-term, not great outcomes. But it's really nice to remember there's more than just this small little part of a story. There's a much wider story to tell.
And I think this lovely diversity with the regenerative practices, now on to grounded as well. Strong, I've just written a couple of things down, strong regional networks, consumer awareness, and honest conversations about limits as well, because we saw that, or we heard that in grounded a lot. There are limitations to what you can grow, in northwestern Australia as opposed to southwestern Australia. So I love the way at Grounded, which it's a farming festival basically, isn't it? That we get to hear from so many different people about different aspects of farming.
Have we explained before we lean right in
Before we
exactly
go
what
into-
grounded is?
Yeah, can you just explain to people who don't know?
Yeah, so Grounded is it's an on-farm conference that's sort of cloaked as a festival. So it's talks in tents. So trying to get it part. I'm trying to organise one in Victoria at the moment and trying to get it past council and the emergency planning group, which is like about 15 people from Ambulance Victoria and police and SES and Surf Life Saving and all those sort of people. it's a bunch of farmers sitting on plastic chairs in tents for part of the day, where they're learning really cool stuff off these amazing speakers. But then the rest of the day, there's some walkarounds where you can learn by seeing and touching and and which is great for farmers who are usually quite active. And so it's about farming better. How do we do that? And so when ways to learn that. So sometimes it's good to see something and touch it and smell it, and sometimes it's really cool to listen to someone talk. Sometimes it's great to just be at the bar having a chat with someone who's in a similar space, or maybe one of the speakers you've heard talk. And so, yeah, the idea is we just do that in various parts of Australia. We had one in Tassie last year, one in Western Australia just a few weeks ago, and saying this learning should be fun. It shouldn't be an onerous thing. How do we do it, and how do we empower people to make change on landscapes as soon as they leave? So it is a farmer festival, but lots of people in the food systems industry are interested. We've had lawyers and chefs and doctors come along because these things, what we eat is not unrelated to so much of else in our lives. And what we focus on is nothing in particular. We're not very agnostic. We're not necessarily organic or regenerative or any of those terms. We're just about, well, what does better look like? But it starts with better soil, and we think of better farmer health, better animal health, better community, and better landscape health. And so how can we grow food and make the world better at the same time? And what's super cool is these people with these brains the size of a planet, or these really amazing stories from their own landscapes, know how to do that. And they just come and they just open their hearts and open their minds and share everything with people. And it was like the energy. I don't know how you found it, Tracy, but the energy on site was just like so joyous. Yeah.
Oh, so joyous. And when you say open their heart, absolutely, that's what they did. But I think that's what the audience did as well. Like there was so much audience participation with questions and just a conversation. There was never seemed to be an argument, because people were there
With strong opinions.
People were there with strong opinions, but open-minded. And I think that's the key, is as you framed it, it's an optimistic event, but a realistic event as well. We heard some very bad things going on and what have you, but at the end of the day, everyone's there and everyone's doing their thing for improvement's sake, which just flows on down the track, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of what we do is informed by hospitality. Those early questions you're asking about, what we do, but why I became a chef, and because a restaurant provides a place where people can go to fall in love, or to celebrate something, or to just to feel better about themselves. I mean, you might go there to break up, but generally,
Now we know
not.
Now we know how Matthew rolls.
Well, no, as a restaurant critic, you see everything. So
bet.
I've seen it all. Yeah. But what the restaurant does is just creates this space where humanity comes together and connects, and this lovely thing happens. And so that philosophy of, okay, so I don't make Grounded special. Tracy, she was there. She didn't make Grounded special. Everybody who came was part of the jigsaw puzzle that made it special. Everybody contributes, and it only comes when people come with the right attitude and with an open mind. We have to put the things in place. They're not just going to show up at a farm on the basis that someone goes, look, magic might happen today. 270 of you just show up and hopefully magic will happen, right? No, we have to say, oh, there's a reason why you should come, and there's something to eat, and there's something to drink, and there's somewhere to sit when you get tired.
Yeah.
There's something to test your brain. There's something to move you to tears. There's something to make you laugh. There's a band to listen to so you can have a dance. They're just the ingredients that I put in place, but the magic happens because of the people who come. And each one of those is a part of none. It's not because of any one of them in particular. It's from all of them coming with the right attitude that makes this beautiful moment happen.
I love the idea, as you said before, about now you've heard people are buying from so-and-so or talking to so-and-so, dealing with so-and-so, that's come from their visit and participation at Grounded. And just the word cross-pollination comes into my mind. Like, you've got all of these people there. They've all got different ideas. They've come for different reasons, but they've come together and they've just all rubbed little bits of information and ideas and the good, the bad, and the ugly, together. And then surely there's going to be some fabulous outcomes, like just gentle shifts in people and practices. And that's what you're looking for, really, is let's share the information, and whatever is going to help you and raise you up, take that and move forward with it.
Yeah. So one of the things that happened out of last year's one in Tassie was a group of researchers have got together. So I've got a sciencey background. My dad was a chemist, and I did a Bachelor of Applied Science once upon a time. So I quite like the boffins and the scientists. And so we had a nutritional psychiatry researcher. So someone who looks into how what you eat affects your gut health, and how your gut health affects your brain health. So Felice Jack, an amazing leader in this space. So she came and spoke at this farming conference, and it was this beautiful moment. There was another guy talking about the soil and how the soil has microbes in it that inoculate our gut, and we think that affects, our immune system and our brain health. And so they now, with another couple of other people, set up this group called Grounded Minds, which is a research group looking at how soil is intimately involved in brain health. So how we treat soil isn't just some esoteric topic and interesting for farmers or for scientists. It's actually how we treat soil can actually have an impact on mental health of people in the population. We know from early research how the microbiome of the children who have a farm or a garden at their school, how that's completely altered what lives in and on them, the things that help them to be happy, healthy humans with a robust immune system and robust mental health. It's better in the kids who have access to those things. So this has just happened in 6 months, 8 months. Yes, this
And
wonderful
also,
thing.
there's got to be something in it apart from the inoculation of, hands in the soil, hands on the plants. There's got to be something in the mental health of children who have access to outside areas to explore and play. There's like multi-levels. So children who get to play on a farm and explore and get dirty and all of that kind of stuff, they're having positive outcomes, in their brain, but from many different aspects, like being able to play.
Kate Flower Food, specialists in strategy and styled content for food, product and lifestyle brands. Smart, beautiful visual marketing, crafted to connect.
Being able to experience the outdoors and get the sun and, all of that on you. And
Also learning from things like falling off a gate, or, like actually not wrapping the kids in cotton wool, letting them go out. And, as you said earlier, I think, Matthew, that, if we don't make mistakes, we're not going to grow or move on or actually learn for ourselves. If we read something saying, if you fall off a gate, you'll hurt yourself. Well, you can read that, but it doesn't mean anything until you do actually fall off a gate and, into a cowpat. You wouldn't do that again.
Yeah. And we're discovering all these things like, and we know all that stuff, like taking risks. If you want to, we would all love to wrap our children in cotton wool and protect them from the world. But we know that, they need to be challenged by ideas. They need to be challenged by climbing a tree, by climbing a gate. They need to be challenged by microbes. We now know they need to be challenged by uh, um, parasites. That parasites actually train our immune system. So when we've stripped ourselves of fleas and ticks and lice, there were chemicals in those parasites that actually train our immune system to know that things like peanuts aren't going to kill you. So we, by taking away all risk and exposure to the world, we've lost a little bit of our humanity. And so I love what these people are doing is they're taking this more holistic approach, saying, look, yes, we don't want kids falling out of trees and breaking their neck. And, no, we don't want people infested with terrible types of worms. But, we are part of an ecosystem, and we need to be in contact with that to some extent to get the best out of our own bodies and the people around us.
So, with the work with Grounded Minds, is there anything online? Can we go and read about what they're doing or what they're looking at?
They've only just started. They just finished soil September, I think. There's been a few speakers from various places around the world who've been talking about things, but what they're trying to do is get, I guess, some funding so they can work as a group to really drill down into the the connections, rather than saying, well, we know this thing is good for you, but we don't know how. And they're trying to work out, I guess, the how
before they share too much
So,
information. I've got a really
So
important question for
Yes.
you, Matthew. What was on the menu at Grounded? Talk us through the menu. Can you remember? Or was it a flash?
Yeah, it was all so long ago. But we had some beautiful vegetables from the farm that were cooked by we had Vincenzo and Rosalba from Swan Valley Slow Food came down, and they brought their spit, and then we got some pastured pork, and it was just done like porchetta style over the rotisserie. So they bring this trailer down. It's a wood-fired rotisserie, and so the pork was just sort of spinning around for the last 4 or 5 hours of the Friday, and then
People kept coming close to it, hoping it was
like-
ready, and then going
like
back
a
away.
Television. It's like somebody posted Bush
Yeah,
TV, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching.
But we had a lady doing sausage rolls with some pastured chicken that was from about 20 minutes up the road, and a guy doing pizzas using all local vegetables and ingredients wherever possible, and we were spinning some snags again from grass-fed beef and pastured pigs nearby, and so and look, Blackwood Valley Wine Association, I forget what it's called, but we had this masterclass of local wines, and we were doing small pours of wine tastings. We had cider from the local cidery. We had the beer was from Little Creatures, and we had the farmer who grew the beer doing a talk about grew the barley that was in the beer, doing a talk about the barley with the brewers, and it was super cool. Like because this idea, I think of it as talking about food is like dancing about architecture. That's paraphrasing Elvis Costello. So like if we're talking about food and fiber at farming conferences, and then you go, and you go and eat salmon or something in the convention center, or some kind of like tortured chicken, it just seems like really the disconnect. So what we try to do is say, hey, you've just heard from the chicken farmer. That product is in the sausage rolls over there. You've just seen where the hops are grown. That's in the beer that we're serving here. And so, and that, again, it's sort of that learning from my restaurant years, that very visceral connection of you've heard something, and then it gets reinforced by the fact you're eating it, and you go, oh, hang on, that pork really tasted good.
Yeah.
Oh,
I bet there wasn't anything that didn't taste good.
Oh, it was all fantastic. Yeah, it was all fantastic. Even Will, who did the waffles on the Sunday morning with
so good.
oranges, just prickly pear powder on it, and a plum.
Yeah.
I think it was a plum creme patissier or something. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah.
Fresh waffles.
And he's all about using waste. So all of those things would have ended up in the bin, but he's like, no, this still tastes delicious. We should be using this product.
What's wrong with it?
And so, he makes bread out of coffee grounds and spent barley.
Wow.
His bread's brilliant.
And delicious.
Yeah.
Totally delicious.
His bread is brilliant.
Yeah, I have the worst FOMO from missing out on Grounded. Anywho, next time. Where is next time, Matthew? Have you started planning?
Yeah, well, if we can get it past the emergency management group in Victoria, it'll be the end of April. So we're full steam ahead on that. We've got lots of plans with the country fire to make sure everything's ticked off and everyone's safe and well looked after. We're bringing up site allocated because Victoria needs a sobering up site when you have a liquor license. So end of April in Victoria.
Wow.
I'll see you in the sobering up site.
Well, the only person I know might be there is our site manager after last year, because it's also stressful.
Yeah, totally. I can understand that. That would seem fair enough.
Amazing. So what were the talks that you heard about that you sort of stuck in your mind, Matthew?
Any West Australian speakers who were particularly good?
Yeah, so in terms of West Australians, well, I think one of the most popular sessions was Heidi Mippy. And so Heidi is a Aboriginal woman who comes from just south of Perth, and she gave a couple of talks. She gave one on burn it all down, we called it. So like, are we choosing the right ingredients to grow in our ancient continent, or should we choose better? But also, how can we use fire in a landscape where fire is your friend, not the scary thing that just torches all our houses? And it was really great to have that perspective. And that ended up with a singing circle outside the
Oh,
tent.
wow.
It was like so beautiful, this moment of
Oh,
like, oh, how did we all end up out here? Yeah, it was like, it was super cool. She also gave one with the West Australians of the Year, Ian and Di Haggerty, because she works on their property, and she was talking about how the wallaby on their property tastes better than neighbouring farms and stuff. So this idea of connecting place to flavour to farming system was also, I guess, seeing it from an Aboriginal point of view was really cool.
are Haggerty's
One of the
able
people
to
who
serve wallaby, Matthew? Is that something they can take to market?
not unless it goes to a game abattoir. So this was just for personal consumption
Yep.
that they hunt there. Yeah. And it's management of wildlife. It helps the Haggertys and it gives someone something to eat. So it's pretty cool. And then the other person, I guess, that really was a bit of not a surprise to me because I chose him, but it was a bit of a surprise. He was the only person. There was about 6 or 7 authors there, and the person who sold out, their books sold out at the bookstore, sold more than any others, was a guy who written a book on mistletoe.
Oh,
And
missed
David
the one I want.
David Watson, amazing speaker, so great, so engaging, really funny, interesting, and unknown. Like no one would have known his name before the event, but I had been watching videos of him and listening to podcasts, and I thought this guy, and I was so excited because people like Jade Miles, they're like amazing authors, and like really cool people with their books, but that he was the one with the unknown, and people were just really obviously warm to him. So that was
well done.
that
Good
was-
choosing.
that was super cool.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
great that
did you-
you're
yeah, did-
listening wide and understanding who's out there and just going, yep, you're it. Let's do it.
Well, that my job is to try and curate a program that has, I guess, some things that you might expect, but there's some stuff that's like you don't expect, and to try and find those great storytellers. I have to say this one in West Australia, because we didn't have any screens. We joke about how there's not only no PowerPoint for quite a while. Just before the event started, there was no power,
Oh, dear.
which was a slight worry, but true. So the presenters had to storytell, and what that meant is they were telling very personal stories or very things that they really care about, which made them more open and I guess slightly more vulnerable. And so there was more tears than I expected, and more laughter than I expected, and more singing, and it had layers of stuff. And this is the thing, that it's really hard to tell people what they're going to expect, because you go, well, it's a conference, and people are like, oh, that sounds like I'll catch up with some professional contacts, but maybe, and I'll get something to use. But like when you go away and you feel touched, you're personally touched by something you've seen, heard, someone you've met, then that's what we aim for. And my job is to try and curate the things that allow that to happen. It's not David Watson, the mistletoe dude, who did that, and it's not Jane Miles, and it's not me. It's the combination of all those things, and the
Yeah,
people
well,
who
you're
come are
trying to
willing.
put together the magic ingredient that's going to give everyone what they need. And
But when we
Yeah,
when we
and it's
also
multi.
say when we also say everyone, I was sorry to interrupt. When we also say everyone, I think it's really important for listeners to understand that this was a farming festival, but we came along with 10 of our customers who none of them farmed, and they were all just entranced by everything, and the vision that I got, Matthew, because I don't think you would have got this because you were down by the fires and everything. When we left on that first evening, and we took that high road behind where the grounded tents and everything was set up, and to just drive down and look down on the tops of the tents and the beautiful dam and the fire pits, and the music was playing, and you could see everyone moving and
it was a vibe.
chatting. It was, it was virtually dark, but well, it was definitely dark by then. But I just thought, what an incredible thing to have put together, like as you said, curated, to bring that together to that one particular point where you just go, oh my goodness, this is something really amazing, not only for farmers, but for anyone who eats.
Yeah. So with this tagline for Gourmet Farmer, like, how hard can it be? Because like, growing food and like making your own butter, and like, can't be that hard. But then when you think of making your own butter, like, you have to milk a cow, you have to skim the cream, you feed the skim milk to the pig, you have to churn, we culture the butter, we churn the butter, we fatten a pig with the skim milk for a year, and then we kill it, and then we salt its leg, and 3 years later we have a leg of prosciutto from the cow, and we're still making our butter.
Easy.
We might put some whey from or buttermilk into the sourdough bread that we cook in the wood-fired oven with the wood that we chainsawed ourselves, and like it's so much bloody work. It's insane. But there's something happens through that process, which is not all of those things. It's just something wonderful. Doing a festival in the middle of a paddock with no power, no water, no infrastructure, and then having to bring everything in. I was like, well, why doesn't anyone do this? How hard can it be?
can it
Right?
be?
It's really very hard. But you only get like I same people and the same audience and the same talks, but not on a farm or not on a space where we that space, and it wouldn't work.
No.
So it's not. It's so many things that go into making it happen and work. And I often think, oh, it's so much easier if we just had someone we could just plug in, like just a PowerPoint or maybe some running water. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? But then you don't get the other bit. And people say, oh, can I just watch it on, why don't you upload things or put it on Zoom so it's cheaper or whatever? It's like, because that's not the good bit. The good bit is when you're there.
Also, Matthew, please don't do that, because can you imagine that trying to get the running water, trying to get the electricity, and then trying to set up the tech? Save yourself the hassle. I like what you built there. It sounds like you created an ecosystem of magic that everybody could take away a little bit of that magic, and I applaud you, because events are so difficult, and very well thought out, complicated events like this one, even more so. So that's a little clap for Matthew.
Yeah, that's not. It's I just work with other people, whether it's Tracey or our site manager Ollie and others like the farmers, Raquel and Murray and Emily. Like there were so many amazing people who get involved, and part of what is the other, another layer of this is the goodwill of the people involved. Like insanely good. You can't. You're sort of going, why would you do this for us? Why would you help us like this? And that's kind of, everybody's there with the right attitude. So
For the same reason you did it and didn't make much money out of it, because you believe in it.
Much money.
Okay, we'll talk about that later on.
I just saw that. Yeah, I say you just did the budget. So anyway, it'll be better next year. I keep telling you, it'll be better next year. It's
Oh my gosh, the
early
same
days.
conversation happens in our household. I think this is going to be the year.
But you've created something really valuable. Unfortunately, you'll never get paid what you deserve for the work that you do, but you can lie down one day and relax and take your last breath and go, I did a bloody good job. I shared really important information with people and shared a bit of joy, and I think that's really, really important.
Look, I've been lucky enough to work in two of the most honourable professions, and not all chefs are honourable, but and neither are all farmers. But cooking food is a really kind of really noble thing to do, to cook for other people, and I think growing food as well, like this, it's really great. And I've met very few people who are in that game for money. Like there's no, people are in it for other reasons, and it's really lucky to be surrounded by people who are in things for the right reasons, and that's what for me makes life worth living. That's what's really cool, and it's not like I'm hard up, I've got a place to live and I've got a dairy cow, so
Happy day.
got no complaints.
And
a market
while food might be your love language, I think also probably you're an acts of service person, and you have to be if you're a chef or if you're working in hospitality, and if you're farming, that's what it is. You are providing acts of service, and they resonate out into the community, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
I want to know what's bubbling away on your stove in the background there. Is there anything on the fire?
nothing. Oh no, on the which way do I have to move? That way.
Oh yeah, that way.
That
Nothing
way.
today.
Nothing at the moment. It's sunny outside, so it's warm enough in here. I might light it later. I'm gonna make I've got some pork fillets, and I have to be honest, as a pig farmer, pork fillets are usually what we feed the dog or the staff, because they're the least flavoursome part of the pig.
To him.
Anyway, so I'm gonna you know, they're it's like people love fillets of everything because they're tender, but we go for flavor. So our pigs have decent flavor. So I'm going to do some of those. I'm going to make a curry out of those. I'm going to do some stir fried asparagus from the garden. And I don't know what else, but yeah, I'm going through a Thai phase again. My wife's stoked because she was born in India and grew up in Indonesia, and she's been a bit bored with my Anglo phase where I, work out the least I can do to a potato to be able to serve it.
And just whack some butter on and go, delicious.
Yeah, and if
It
they're
is delicious.
beautiful pink eye potatoes, that new pink eyes, you don't even need the butter. You just touch of salt.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, they are delicious. But she's now excited because I'm going, oh, now let's put some spice in that. Let's build that layer upon layer of flavor. Yeah.
Well, I know how the teaser's going to go for this podcast. We'll be saying, listen in, ladies and gentlemen, because Matthew Evans is telling us how he spices up his marriage. Is that okay? And they'll be really disappointed, like, oh.
Shall I actually?
Are they still talking about soil?
I'll actually
So he bought some lemongrass. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Actually, I've got so much lemongrass in the garden. I wish I could give you a whole bunch of lemongrass to take back for you. But just very quickly on the Anglo cooking side of things, the recipe for today's podcast are brown butter almond biscuits.
It's so good.
With oats in them, of course. We'll get some yum fibre and stuff. Yeah, but you can carry on crunching because they are a bit crunchy on the outside and soft in the middle. And the reason for me doing this was that a few years ago, I can't remember which book it came from, but you had some beautiful English biscuits in some books. Garibaldi's squash flour biscuit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love the Garibaldi's. They're such fun to make as well with currants. And digestive biscuits, which are my favorite biscuits of all time.
They are delicious.
Digestive. There's something about that saltiness in them and the wheatiness or something. I don't know.
That's that certain what do you call it? Crumb.
Yes, and
digestive.
The texture of them is absolutely beautiful as well. So I just thought, because I love your biscuit recipes so much, we'll do a nice little biscuit so listeners can, and you might want to cook them ones.
I can't wait.
Very, very, very easy to do.
I can't wait to eat the rest of that. That's so good.
They are really delicious, aren't they? And you can keep them in the freezer and cook them as you want them if you want to do that.
Next time you should invite me over rather than just doing this on the Zoom.
Sorry.
I have to watch you eat, Kate. Like, seriously.
I can see a little bit of dribble starting to come out one side. Quick.
Matthew, thank you so
Well, having just watched you eat it, have you got them in your eyebrows? Because I saw you eat them like this.
They're everywhere. There's probably some down there.
Down there. Do you want to wrap up?
Yeah.
Because I've just tried it.
Okay, Matthew's ignoring the wrap up. Who wants to stay on? We would like to say thank you so much, Matthew Evans, for coming and chatting to us. I'm so glad that I got to hear a little bit about what Grounded was all about and some of the stories. I got the lead up and now I've got the wrap up. Always fascinating talking to you. We can't wait for your next 14 books to come out. And we look forward to talking to you again, I'm sure, because there's just always something new to hear from you.
Let's hope so. So next time you're in WA, give us a call. You got a number.
Will do. Nice to see you guys.
See you, Matthew. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Curious Cooks. And if you know someone else who would enjoy this conversation, please share it with them.
We love hearing from our listeners, so let us know what you are curious about. You can follow us on Instagram at Curious Cooks Podcast and keep listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And if you like to watch and listen, subscribe to The Curious Cooks on YouTube. We'll see you there.